Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Lawrence Alliance for Education meeting. It is now 5:18. Would we all stand for the pledge?
Are you going to introduce Mr. Moore?
Yep.
I pledge
I would like to introduce Mr. Marley, who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the
and to the
republic for
republic
which
which
it stands,
stands,
one nation under God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Marley.
Then let's go.
I would like one of our members to make a motion to go into executive session under Purpose 2 in order to review and discuss potential collective bargaining agreements with the SEIU and the building-based educators. We will resume our regular meeting at approximately 6 o'clock. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion made by Naomi, second. Second by Jess. We'll call the roll. Jess? Yes. Maria?
Yes.
Naomi?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. We will return at approximately 6 o'clock. Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to the Lawrence Alliance for Education meeting. Before we begin with public comment, I would like to take a moment to thank Ventura Rodriguez for being a member of this board since its inception and serving as chair for the past 2 years. During his tenure, he has led us through the COVID crisis, remote learning, and ultimately a safe return to school. His new work assignment has made it difficult for him to continue as a member. A huge thank you is sent to him for his unending support and dedication to the Lawrence Public Schools and the students which it serves. So best of luck to Ventura. Thank you. Now, the board welcomes public comment at this time. We will call people in order they signed up for. Please state your name and address when you come to the podium. Each person is permitted to speak for no more than 2 minutes. A bell will ring when you have 30 seconds remaining, and again at the end of the 2 minutes. I ask that you please respect this limit. Profanity will not be tolerated. If used, we will turn off the microphone, and the person will be asked to leave the room. I'd like to remind everyone that during public comment, the board is in listening mode, and as such, board members do not respond to comments. So the first speaker is Mr. Marley.
Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. We, the citizen, tonight proud to support Lawrence Public School, support staffs. These people working so hard. This is shameful. With a budget of 230 million, we cannot pay them compensation and a fair contract. We demand of you to accept the proposal for the contract. In this our city of immigrant, future of children depend on the support staff of Lawrence Public School. We demand of you respect their right with the fair compensation. We cannot allow these hard-working people continue working, educating our children with unfair wages. We demand the best contract for them. We are united in support of our public school, paraprofessional and the teacher support in this important election year. We demand best contract for them. We, the citizens, are united to stand up in support of their contract, but we demand the best compensation for them. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Suzanne Silveris.
Good evening. name is Suzanne Salaveras, and I am the president of the Lawrence Federation of Paraprofessionals. I'm here tonight to ask the LAE Board to approve our bargaining proposal given to Lawrence Public Schools in August of 2022. Our proposal is fair, equitable, and is affordable to Lawrence Public Schools. Right now, the paraprofessionals in Lawrence are making $17 an hour. That is less than the starting rate in the surrounding communities. The Boston Globe released an article this week expressing many people in Lawrence are living in poverty or homeless or are living 2 to 3 families in a 2-bedroom apartment, and that is all due to rent increases. The Lawrence Federation of Paraprofessionals has 3/4 of their members living in Lawrence. This is their life. This is what they're experiencing every day. As the president, I feel it is my duty to tell you what paraprofessionals are commuting to me every day. Suzanne, I'm sorry I'm giving my notice. I need to move on to make more money. Suzanne, I don't know what to do. My landlord is in the process of evicting me and giving me a notice tomorrow. Suzanne, I've been offered the opportunity to earn more money if I take this new position in the district. This is what I hear as the president. It is heartbreaking to hear a number of members having to decide to pay rent or to put food on their tables, working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. We shouldn't have to work 2 jobs. 1 job, just one, should be enough to live on. Many of us do not want to leave Lawrence Public Schools, but workers cannot wait any longer. We are losing paraprofessionals every week. Our students will suffer because of this all year. So I'm asking you to make it right. You, all of you up there, have the ability to make a change. Our members deserve a living wage. Thank you.
Vivian Bonet.
Good evening. My name is Vivian Bonet. I live on 33 Dartmouth Street, Lawrence, Mass. I am the president of the Lawrence Administrative Support Staff Association, and we too are asking for a living wage. We have a lot of our members that are paying high daycare costs, sending their kids to college. Food is very expensive right now, gas, everything else, and they have to be working multiple jobs when one should be, like Suzanne said, efficient. And I know the Lawrence Public Schools has the means to make this feasible. Thank you.
Amparo Silva.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Amparo Silva. I've been working for the Lawrence Public School for many years. I think it is this, oh, my glasses, I'm sorry. The one that I don't see. I think it's disrespectful that we have a mediocre wage when we do so much for our students. We are professional and we deserve a respectful salary. We are everything for our students. We are nurses, counselors, educators, parents. To them, how it is possible that we get treated so poorly when we do so much. My son has 2 years working, and he is already making more money than me. Sometimes I feel, I cry every time that I look to my bank account and see $3 left after I pay my bills. I'm a single mom. With what you are doing to us, you are not only hurting us, but our students as well. Think about it. Thank you to my fellow parents. I want to say something in Spanish shortly. Nosotros no nos merecemos somos profesionales, somos educadores, estamos muchas horas con los niños, somos todo para ellos, merecemos un sueldo mejor. Por la vida cara que tenemos, todo ha subido. Necesitamos vernos como lo que somos, profesionales, y recibir un cheque profesional también porque estamos ganando muchos de nosotros menos que un McDonald's o un Burger King. Thank you, everyone.
Maria Bones.
Hello, good evening. My name is Maria Bones, and I live in 36 Freeman Street in Haverhill. I have been working at the district for 29 years, okay? 29 years. I don't make a living wage. The reason that I'm here today is to try to let you know that you're losing a lot of paras, nice paras, because they don't pay. They don't have enough money to pay rent, to pay the gas. Like me, I'm working 29 years at the system, and I live in Haverhill now, and a lot of people told me, why you don't go to Haverhill? And I said, no, because I would like to stay here, but you deserve to respect us and give you the living wage that everybody wants. Okay? So please consider and give it a new contract, but giving the living wage that everybody wants to live. Pay rent, gas, everything, groceries, everything go up. Like Amparo, my friend said, sometimes she don't have any money in the account. So do you think it's good that people sleep, thinking about how can I get paid my rent? Because the money they get, and they like the job, like me. I like the job that I'm doing. And everybody asks me, why you don't go to Haverhill? Because you moved to Haverhill. But I would like to stay in here because I'm here 28 years. My daughters came to these schools, to South Lawrence East. And they always telling me the same thing, move. And I said, no, I want to stay here and I want to work for my coworkers, work for my secretaries, for staff support, and please consider us contract. Thank you.
Mari Zangri. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. More. I'm sorry, More.
Forgive me. I'm not too great at public speaking, but one thing I do very well is I teach, I educate, and so if y'all don't mind, I'm gonna turn this into a classroom right now just so I can get my point across, please, okay? So, I don't have the time that I thought I was going to have in saying everything that I wanted to say, so I'm gonna have to cut it short, which is okay. You guys wanted to push, sorry, when I say you guys, Lawrence Public Schools wanted to push out restorative justice into Lawrence Public Schools. So I'm going to take this opportunity to enlighten everybody and let you guys know what is restorative justice. How do we do restorative justice? The 5 R's, starting with relationship, okay? That is the heart of restorative justice, okay? They're in relationships, okay? There needs to be a relationship that was harmed. Someone caused harm, and someone's been impacted. Let me tell you, DESE, Lawrence Public Schools, caused harm to the Lawrence communities, okay? This relationship is damaged. Let's move on. Let us move on to the next R, please. Let us move on to the next R. After relationship, we have respect, okay? If relationship is the heart of restorative justice, respect would be the key ingredient. Okay? Without respect for restorative justice, we cannot move forward, okay? Everyone needs to trust the process and also feel safe enough for this process, okay? Moving on from respect, we have responsibility. Everyone is held responsible. Everyone is held accountable, regardless of your intentions. I would love to believe that your intentions are in the right place. Unfortunately, the impact is what matters. And the impact that I see in my classrooms, my kids do not care about school, and that drives me up the wall. You know what? One thing I don't play about is my students. One thing I do not play about is my kids, okay? So, let's move on. From responsibility, we now have repair, okay? Repair. How do we
Sorry,
repair
your
the
time
damaged
is up at
relationship?
this moment.
Thank you. How do we repair the damaged relationship? Well, I'll tell you right now. So, once we repair, then comes to reintegration. I'm gonna
Thank
tell you
you.
right now, I do not
Thank you for your comments.
Lawrence public schools dictate what we do within our public schools until you repair this relationship.
Thank you. Wellington Francisco. Is this raised? I don't think we can hear his mic. We can't hear.
33 Baldwin Street, husband, father, and grandfather. I remember before I started working with all of you guys. My wife, sitting there, used to go home, sitting on the couch, and pass out. And I was saying to myself, what in hell is she doing in that school? I'm enjoying you guys now, and I know because last night I passed out. See, these people are working so hard with the future of Lawrence. And I understand everybody who work hard deserve a better house, deserve driving a Tesla, not mentioning any name. And I understand that. We all deserve to get what we like when we have the money. But how about share those 84 million that Lawrence is getting? We us, not giving us a penny. Come on, guys. I'm just starting to be a para this year. And let me tell you, it's not easy. Being a father, I see this teacher working, but I never see this one behind the door that nobody knows. I didn't know these people until now. I know these people because my wife started working as a para last year. I didn't know what a para is. You know why? Because I didn't care. I was caring only about these people who making the big money, principal, superintendent, and teacher. But these people working as hard as every one of you. Please, okay? These people deserve more money. We're not asking for millions. We're just asking for more of this penny that we're getting. You guys getting the big chunk. And again, I'm not saying again that you guys do not deserve what you're getting. Yes, you guys are working hard. It's not easy dealing with people. I know that. I know. Superintendent, with all due respect, she's an educator. She go to our school. And this lady not even say hi to anyone. She made the money that she made thanks to us, thanks to the people of Lawrence. And it's a shame how she cannot have the education to not even say good morning to everyone. How our kids gonna learn from that? Our kids gonna learn not to say good morning to anyone. They don't have no education. What we want in Lawrence?
Thank you.
More
Your
criminal?
time is up, sir.
More
Thank
criminal?
you.
Thank you.
I believe it's either Bridget Reyes or Bridget Ruiz.
Mi nombre es Brigitte Reyes y voy a hablar en español porque mi inglés es un poco loco. Quiero hacerles saber a todas las personas que están presentes aquí hoy en este meeting que yo fui una de las personas que saqué a todo el mundo de su casa para tirarlo a las calles a protestar. Porque las escuelas no nos están oyendo, nadie nos está oyendo a nosotros por nuestro sueldo. Las escuelas grandes obtuvieron un aumento. Nosotros, las escuelas pequeñas, nos humillaron, nos pisotearon como una cucaracha. Y yo responsablemente quiero hacerle una pregunta algún día al abogado de las escuelas que estaba supuestamente a defendernos a nosotros y ayudarnos. ¿Cuál fue el motivo por el cual él dijo que él no entendía por qué nosotros queríamos aumento? Yo soy una mujer de 68 años y yo tengo 2 trabajos para poder pagar una renta y ir a dormir a mi casa y comer. Entonces, si nosotros estamos pagando bastante dinero para la unión, ¿por qué motivo tienen que tratarnos a nosotros de la forma que nos están tratando? Las escuelas pequeñas estamos trabajando como burras igual que las escuelas grandes. Entonces, nosotros merecemos que por lo menos que nos den una atención, que nos oigan cuando estamos hablando. Pero a nosotros no nos ha oído nadie. Nadie nos está oyendo, ni nos quieren dar aumento, ni nos quieren decir nada. Estamos desamparados como los animalitos. Gracias.
Sandra Ruiz.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Ruiz. I live on 24 Dana Street. I am born and raised in Lawrence, and I'm currently working at Lawrence High as a parent liaison. I'm working for my city and giving back to the community. I'm here to talk about truth to power and equity. I am part of the bargaining sessions with the district. It's been so disturbing to hear how we're not worthy of a living wage. Let me tell you, it's infuriating to see the district attorney belittle us and show no compassion or value to what the parents have to go through. We have been told by the attorney that if we want to make more money and get paid $25, go to Amazon. Complete disrespect. Today we came with the proposal that they offer us only $1.50, that enough to satisfy our needs. Let me be clear, $1.50 is only to the parents who has 10 years in LPS. We got surrounding towns like Andover, Haverhill, Billerica making $30. There's no reason why my parents are making crumbs. Living in Lawrence has become a luxury, rent starting at $1,800, daycare about $1,500 a month. Lawrence is overpopulated, causing a shortage in apartments and families becoming homeless. This is personal to us because it affects our families, our way of life, our mental health. The bottom line is that the LAE Board has failed us and our students. You have the power to stop this madness. I'm asking each one of you to take your voice to a motion in living wage for our parents to be competitive to our neighboring towns. Thank you.
Thank you. Heidi Castillo.
My name is Haiti. I live at 90 East Haverhill Street, and I'm a paraprofessional at Oliver Elementary. I'm here to tell you about my experience working at LPS and why my colleagues and I, as paras, deserve a living wage. LPS is in a staffing crisis, and paras are being asked to carry on multiple job duties aside from the assigned duties we already have. As a college student, I have been a crisis para, a one-to-one para, an in-person tech support during the pandemic, a first grade teacher, a fourth grade math teacher, currently the lead teacher in an ILP classroom with no raise. I have put LPS as a top priority before my own education and health. I was able to achieve my associate's degree and have continued to take courses in order to receive my bachelor's in elementary education. But all this for what? So I can continue to receive less than $19 an hour? This morning, our demands were disrespectfully overlooked and not taken serious by the LPS district. Refusing to pay the hardworking paraprofessionals a living wage is only adding to the staffing crisis. Without paras, who will take your kids off buses and cars? Who will take your kids into their classroom? Who will make sure your kids stay safe during lunch and recess? Who will de-escalate while teachers teach? Due to inflation within the United States, it is becoming harder and harder to make a living. The cost of living has gone up 5.9%, and the pay for paras stays the same. How does this make any sense? We cannot wait any longer, and we demand a living wage.
Thank you. Beth Contos. Beth Contos. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name.
Yay! Hi, everybody. I'm Beth Contos. I'm president of the American Federation of Teachers in Massachusetts. I live at 237 Center Street in Danvers. I don't have to tell you because they're already telling you what their living and working situation is. But I will tell you that AFT Massachusetts stands behind every person who's here and even the people who aren't here today. And we will keep coming back over and over again, and we will just bring more people. I also stand in solidarity with every parent. Many of these people are also parents with their children in the Lawrence Public Schools. But every parent who knows how important the staff is to the successful outcome, the educational outcome of their children. We cannot legally meet the requirements for IEPs without the people who are here tonight. The Student Opportunity Act was a landmark victory for public education in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Many of these people fought for that, made phone calls for that, and showed up to celebrate it when we won it. That was 2019. You know what happened after that. The darn pandemic came. But we have the money. Lawrence has been a beneficiary every year of increased funding, and it is only going to get better. It is time to respect the people who are here that are caring for our children through difficult times. They've already stepped up. So we are asking you, as the receivership, you're in charge of Lawrence, to meet the needs of our own residents. People live in Lawrence here. They're paying taxes in Lawrence. They are supporting the very school system that they work in. They deserve a living wage. They deserve respect. They deserve our love and appreciation for caring for our children day after day.
Thank you. Your time is up at this
Thank
point.
you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mario Rodriguez, 52 Everett Street. Again, I apologize for mispronouncing your name.
Hi, my name is Marlene Rodriguez, and I live in South Lawrence. I work at the Lawrence High School. I'm a paraprofessional. I work with special needs education, and I don't know if you know, we have to do changes, and everybody's quitting at the Lawrence High right now. So we have to cover for the staff that are not there. We have to take care. In my classroom, at least 6 kids in wheelchair that we have to change and help them out twice a day, plus feeding. I don't think it's fair. I don't really care about the 60 cents, but I think it's a slap on the face when somebody new comes in and they get paid more than me. And it's like I had to train them and they get paid $22 an hour and I'm here under 18 and I still have to work double. I had to train a person and I had to help out. I had to do subbing too because all the teachers are quitting too. So I think we should get a better raise. Thank you.
Mason Pekovich, 100 Mass Mills Drive.
My name is Mason. That sounds all right, right? Good? Cool, okay. My name is Mason Bakarovich. I work at Lawrence High School. I live at 100 Mass Mills Drive, got that right. I work at Lawrence High School. This is the fourth year, that I've worked as a paraprofessional in the ILP program for 9th and 10th grade. I love my job. I do. I didn't plan what I was going to speak about because I was like, you'll do all right. I guess what's bugging me the most today is that I had a student severely distressed because I was called to a bargaining session, as I am on the negotiation team. Yep. I was pulled into a negotiation session this morning for absolutely no reason. I did not know it was possible to be spit at in my face by someone who is over Zoom. Attorney Connolly needs to go. If the man speaking for you does not recognize the difference that dollars could make per hour, what? Attorney Connolly. I was not the only one who chuckled when he said it. He did not recognize that there is a significant difference when a person makes $17, let's say, instead of $23. That is $6. Your attorney does not recognize that that is life-changing. I don't know what kind of attorney he is, but you're wasting your money. You're wasting our money on him. He is the worst part. After missing nearly 3 classes this morning, not only did I stay after today to make sure that I was caught up on the notes that I know my student couldn't take because he was too stressed out, wondering when I'd get there, I wondered whether I wanted to go into school at all after meeting this morning. I could not believe it. Out of respect for my other coworkers, because I'm sorry, I did go into work. Thank you for your time.
Samaria Cruz. Samaria Cruz.
My name is Samaria Cruz. I live at 46 Chester, South Lawrence. I've been working for Lawrence Public Schools since 1995. And when I first started, my principal was Miss Mariano. There, I worked as a paraprofessional those years, and I was doing my student teaching to become a teacher. Later, when I graduated, a principal named Ms. Rapazzotti, she gave me a position. Also, Mr. Partham was in accordance to give me a teaching position at the Henry K. Oliver School. There I taught first grade, second grade, and third grade. When the law went into effect, no child left behind, I was left without a job. Lawrence Public School did not call me or anything. And I kept calling them, I need to work. School already started. So I was no job, no pay, 3 kids, single parent. Later on, a friend of mine said, the Gannett Middle School is hiring. There I worked those years too. I worked with the eighth graders, teaching them in the classroom. I was also transitioning to the office. They knew the skills that I had and all the skills that I built as a teacher. So I was doing both, office, work, children. I love children. I've been working with children all my life. I now work as a sped para. I do not regret that. I love the children. I respect them. I love them dearly, and I spend more time and energy trying to make sure that they get the lesson. And that each day when they come to me or the classroom or the teacher, that they're welcome and they're excited to be with us. But when I get paid, it's a disgrace. My son yesterday asked me for money. I had no money.
Samaria, I'm sorry, but your time is up.
Last year, I had to sell my jewelry to pay for my rent. You guys take advantage of our salary. I need a car and I need a house and I need to get paid well because I deserve so many years working for the kids and I respect them.
Maria, thank you. Thank you. Julio Ramos, please.
Hi, my name is Julio Ramos. I'm a SCS paraprofessional. I'm also a coach and mentor at LPS, right? I just want to start to say, Samara, thank you for your service, and thank you for everything that you do for the city of Lawrence. Everything that has been said, right? We are in a crisis. We need to have a livable wage. That's the bottom line, all right? If we don't have a livable wage, not only do we get affected, but our kids get affected. And our working conditions become their learning conditions. So that we have to take into consideration. I'm probably as nervous now as I was here in 1997 when I came in front of my peers to run for student council president, because I had a teacher that believed in me and said that I was a leader, okay? When I walked in, in 1997, when I walked in this building every single day, there were signs that said, making dreams come true. I pray and hope that you consider a livable wage, because we have a group of people here that have dreams, that have goals. Most importantly, they have kids. We have parents here. Parents, thank you. Thank you for bringing your kids for this cause. Thank you. I don't think what we're asking is anything less than what we deserve. We're asking fair. More talked about restorative justice. 100% agree. Amparo talked about you're not just hurting us. 100% agree. All right? Paras, we might be just considered paras, but for me, and I'm sure I talk on behalf of Sue as well, and all her leadership, you guys are not only our heroes, but our kids' heroes. So thank you very much.
Sue Lasad.
Good evening. My name is Sula Sard. I work at the SES. I'm a Lowell resident, but for the last over 15 years, I have been coming to Lawrence to work with your children. I love my job. I truly love my job. I'm not going to go on and reiterate all the negative that my colleagues have given you, because every 2 weeks, y'all cut my check. You know what it is. So instead, I'm here to give a challenge, and that challenge is that I am willing to give up a day's pay so that any one of you can walk in my shoes. And if after you have lived that day, you can still look us in the face and tell us that we don't deserve what we are asking for. Thank you.
Elizabeth Osborne.
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Osborne. I live on 97th Street in North Andover. I'm a teacher at the SES Annex. And I am here today because in my school, we work with students that have disabilities, moderate to severe. These paraprofessionals every day come in with a smile. They do discrete trial work, which is a lot of work, if anyone who has done that. They do toileting services. They are there with the students at specials, even when teachers are not, because they're doing their breaks or they're trying to go do work they have to do for meetings or anything else. But they fill in that spot. They are there at recesses. They are there at lunches. They are there at bus duty in the morning and the afternoon. They do so much with these students. They do pretty much on par with teachers, actually, every single day. And yet they are paid so much less. And I'm learning more and more about this. I am new to the profession, but I am learning more and more about the inequality that there is. And I'm speaking today because I don't really like public speaking, but I think it is important that my voice is heard as a teacher who sees it every single day. And I personally could not imagine what our school would be like without paraprofessionals. And we're losing a lot of them, is what I have heard. And that's not okay. You go anywhere else and you will see paraprofessionals are paid a livable wage. Or actually, some of them aren't, but some of them are. We are Lawrence, and we are proud of our community. We are proud of our city. These paraprofessionals deserve to have a livable wage. I hate hearing that paraprofessionals have to worry about paying, bills that everyone else is paying, Like we're able to pay for, car repairs sometimes, or, when our spouse is sick, their medical bills. These paraprofessionals aren't always, because they're paying for everything else. So I just think it would be so important if you could really consider what they're saying. And if you talk to so many teachers, they will tell you paraprofessionals are the backbone of the community. They are the backbone of our schools. And if you look at my classroom alone, you have one teacher, you have 3 paraprofessionals in there. That should tell you something. Paraprofessionals make up about 75% of that classroom. And I would be nowhere without my paraprofessionals. Thank you so much.
Haiti Francisco.
Mi nombre es Heidi Francisco, vivo 300 Metuen. Estoy hablando porque eso no está bien, que la Cynthia Paris quiere pagarle ahora $14.25 a la paraprofessional. ¿Cómo va uno a vivir? Pagando renta a casi $2,000 y el gas y todo está por los cielos. Eso no está bien, que ella quiera pagar ese dinero a las personas. No 19, no 20, 14, lo está bajando más para ella metérselo al bolsillo y a usar carros de lujos como anda ella. Eso no está bien. Y tal vez ahora mismo usted no está pendiente a nosotros, no le importa a nosotros, pero a nosotros sí nos importa a los niños y por eso nosotros estamos, aunque estamos bajo salario, con los niños. Usted está pendiente a otra cosa. Debería de todo el tiempo, todos los meetings diciéndole súbanos el sueldo, y usted ni caso no hace, pero eso no está bien. Tal vez ahora usted coja algo de mente y diga, sí, vamos a darle algo, pero no una miseria, sino más dinero. Gracias.
Thank you. That concludes our public participation for this evening. Thank you for your participation this evening. We will take a 5-minute recess. All right, we're ready to begin the meeting. May I have your attention, please? The next item on the agenda is the chairman's report. And we're scheduled to vote on a couple of contracts. But before we do that, I'd like to say that I attended the negotiation meeting with the paras this morning. And although no agreement has been reached at this time, I am confident that both sides will come to a resolution and the terms of the contract will be agreed upon real soon. And let's begin with the contracts that we're approving. I'd like a motion to approve the contract for the SEIU Local 888. Motion? Where's Jess?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We'll call the roll. We're waiting for Jess. Jess, we're voting on the SEIU contract.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was just my son.
The motion has been made and approved.
Yep.
We're calling the roll. Jess?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Naomi?
Yes.
Motion carries and that contract's approved. The next contract to be approved is the AFT Local 1019. Motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Jess, second.
Second.
By Julia.
I'm sorry?
The motion was made by Julia.
Julia, second.
Second.
We'll call the roll. Jess?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Naomi?
Yes.
All right, motion passed, and those two contracts are approved. At this point, we'll turn the meeting over to the superintendent for her report.
Thank you. I wanted to give you a little bit of a highlight of the past 2 weeks as we successfully have reopened. As you know, I start my days visiting schools, and this year is no different. I've had the opportunity to visit several schools, everything from our early learning centers into the high school. It's been quite the joyful past 2 weeks, watching our students acclimate to the new routines and structures that staff members have set up for them. Particularly, I've seen our youngest learners dive right into circles. Last week, I was sitting observing a circle of kindergartners, and if you can envision that the teacher sets the prompt, and the prompt for this age group is, how are you feeling today? And then she further scaffolds to ask them, are you happy, are you sad? And then the children then give their response as they use a talking piece. And in this case, it was a little soft heart, one of those little squishy ones that you've seen. And so the children pass it, and each of them has their response, whether they're feeling sad, whether they're feeling happy. Most of the kids, of course, were very happy because they're in school. Some kids were sad because they were missing their parents, but all of the kids participate in circle. And I invite you all, as I do every year, to join me in school visits. I can go on and on with stories about my school visits, but I will keep those for another time when there's ample time for that. I want to shift today and then give you all, start with the next agenda item here today. We have 4 important topics. We'll start with our financial update, and that's going to be on the ESSERs. As you know, we are the recipients of millions of dollars in the ESSERs, and in a moment I'm going to have Chris Heath and maybe Maciel as well to share with us an update on the ESSERs. The last time that we shared with you an update, we were on ESSER 2, so Chris is going to help us with where we are in terms of our spending and then next steps.
Great, thank you. It's good to see everybody again. Last time we saw each other was in the late spring, so I hope everybody had an enjoyable summer. I'm excited to come back on my tour again to share a little bit more about ESSER. Again, some of this will look very familiar, and I just want to also share that I took the request from our last meeting, and there was a wish to see a little bit more dollar amounts that correlated with percentages spent. So that has been embedded into the presentation. I'll give a high-level view of that today. And then also just to note that there was a supplemental material sent that dives in real deep. If you would like to peruse that, you can. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out. Glad to meet with anybody. Okay. So the first one is our ESSER 1. This will be familiar to everybody. This one started first. The award amount, this was part of CARES Fund, so you'll notice that each of the ESSERs has its own designated federal line that goes with it. So this one, I'm very happy to report we're at 96% spent. A lot of work, and I'll point out again the patterns that you'll see in our spending were almost very responsive to what was happening at the time, and like what our community needed, what our students needed, what our families needed. And you'll see how allocations and spending shifts throughout the 3 cycles. This is closing very soon. We're going through our end-of-year closing process for this now. Some movement will happen from ESSER 2 expenses pulled into ESSER 1, where things perhaps we projected them to be spent and completed by this time will not. So we'll pull a cost from ESSER 2 to help close that out per Dusty's request. The ESSER 2 award, again, this is running through September 30th of 2023, so just about a year away. Very happy to report that we are 71% spent on this, 71.6% spent at a cost of $17 million. This is again closing on 9/30/23, so that will be a year from roughly now. This, again, the funding source for this one was the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations. This was a separate funding from CARES. Again, you'll notice that some of the areas that we have changed in terms of the view for you dig into the costs, both expended and encumbered. And then I've included some details within the examples of what the tenets of those expenses are. And then you can refer again to that other piece if you would like more explicit detail there. But I am very happy with where we are in our projections and our spends and where we have allocated our funds. You can see that it's shifted less from more of like a materials place at the beginning, and now this is much more of a hands-on place, and you'll see a lot more direct student supports embedded in the ESSER 2. The distinct difference with ESSER 3, again, there is no prop share, which is part of our private school partnerships. That was exclusive to ESSER 1. Those relationships are in great standing. We've helped them support their spending. That's done through my department, and we help work with 13 private schools on that. And what different about ESSER 3 is that that will be closing on the 2024. Right now we are, where are we? Just very starting this one, 5% expended and encumbered. Some important things and real highlights here though, and I was really excited to see, the Frost project has come through, and you'll start to see those in your ledger. And that's a really wonderful project, I think, that was embedded, and you really have a nice opportunity to see a piece of what ESSER is able to provide that looked different perhaps than what ESSER 1 did. So this is much more of a forward-looking piece. Contracted services are higher on this one, and that's why, because their dollar attachments are higher. We have large contracts in this one, which took a lot of work to go through the audit process with the Department of Ed, working with the City of Lawrence as well. So I'm proud of where this has come already. It doesn't seem like much has happened, but there's been quite a bit that's happened already just to get us to this 5%. So that's where we are, and that's the update. I didn't know if there was any questions that I might be able to answer for anyone.
Any questions from the board members?
Well, I will plan to see you all in a few more months, and I'll come back
Jess?
for the next update. Oh, sorry, did you have a question? Yeah.
I guess I have one comment, and then I do have a question. So I guess, one thing that I'm happy to see in this is, we have spent a lot of time as a board discussing how much of ESSER we can spend on additional compensation for staff. Like, this sort of indirectly speaks to some of the concerns raised tonight. And I know that, like, as a board, we're balancing an environment of, in the overall picture, somewhat scarce resources right now for like a limited period of years. We have some significant resources, but we can't necessarily make commitments with those that we are not going to be able to pay for when these resources dry up, right? But I'm really glad to see that we're spending 40% of the largest ESSER award on additional compensation for, for staff and for bringing new staff on that respond to some of the needs that have risen during the pandemic. Can you just go back to the table so that we can see the, yeah, thank you, right? So that's like 37.5% on salaries and fringe and stipends, et cetera.
So you brought up a really good point, and I think that you're right that the purpose of ESSER is to triage, essentially. And what is really, really hard, I think, is to think very narrowly right now in terms of what's in front of us right now and what's in front of us in just a few years, which we're fortunate to have through 24. But you also have to have this lens of sustainability, and I think that's what you talked about. I do want to just clarify, though, that the FTE positions that you did highlight in there, yes, they are very value added, but they are right now needs, and they are meeting a triage needs, if you will, and those were not built to be long-term sustainably funded. So that's something I just want to point out, that because the spirit of this grant is short and intense.
Right, no, I do,
yeah.
I understand that, but
Okay.
what I'm saying is that we've had a lot of discussions at the board level about how these have been extraordinary times, and so we need to provide some compensation for dealing with extraordinary times. And I'm just pointing out that we're sort of putting our money where our mouth is in that sense, right?
Yeah, I would agree. And just to fall back to that, this was really a community feedback document, and
Right.
it's very much living. So thank you. I agree with you. I think that the right decisions have been made, and I think we're supporting the right things for kids and families.
Yeah, I guess what I would want to see, but the other like sort of question or comment I have is that I'd like to see a little more detail in the next report, maybe about the contracted services, because I just want to understand, like, again, I know that we have short-term needs, and some of those require specialized technical assistance and interventions that we have to contract with others for. We don't necessarily have that capacity in-house. But I would like to understand that more, because we are spending a lot of this money on like consultants and professional development and contract services. So it would be great to understand a little bit more detail on that as well.
If that's the wish of the board, I absolutely can do that. I can break down our contracted services bundle and just kind of open that up and give some examples and share with you those specifics. If you would like some immediate kind of information, there is information broken down, ESSER 1, 2, and 3 in that other document. Okay. Any other thoughts, requests?
Well, Chris, I have questions. Thank you for putting the dollars and cents there. I was the one that asked you to do that.
I remember, yeah.
On the first page, ESSA 1, the other costs, the supplemental learning spaces, are those like St. Mary's and the LAE School swing space?
Exactly, yep.
So we can pay for that out of this?
That has been paid, yep.
Okay.
Yep, that actually is part of the, you'll see that that was the one line that we kind of went over a little bit. So that has been an encumbered cost already.
All right, now under ESSER 2, you have the school quality review, the SQR. And I don't know if I did this correctly or not, but I did do a printout of the supplemental page. Look at the way he's laughing at me.
I'm not laughing. I appreciate it. I really do.
I did do a printout of the supplemental pages, but I didn't see the School Empowerment Network listed as a vendor. So are we or are we not paying them out of ESSER?
So that might be part of a projection cost in terms of their allocation, because we did have another grant from DESE that was a strategic support grant.
So that's coming out of the other grant
I think
from DESE?
it's going to be, again, because it's like a cyclical relationship that we'll have with them, that's going to be maybe this year and next year, but you encumbered the cost because they're projected.
Okay.
And that was the strategic support grant. It's 220 and 323, and that's a state grant.
All right, and what are universal screeners to identify and support learning needs? What are universal screeners?
Yeah, I
Wanna
can
take
jump
this
in.
one, Cynthia?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, as an example, we have early literacy screeners that are universal.
Now, are they teachers?
Oh, so the question is specific to what are they?
Who are they?
Oh, sorry, yes, yes. Got it.
You know,
Yes, yes,
the
got it.
term universal
Yes,
screeners.
thank you. You know, I appreciate that because sometimes we use all this jargon and we're like, what are they talking about? Yeah, thank you for that. So think of the universal screener when the preschooler or kindergartner arrives. We will sit down with Cynthia. I'm like, oh, do you know these colors? Do you know these letters? Do you know these numbers? Those are universal screeners, as an example.
But there are people who are...
Nope, they're the actual, well, they're actually the instrument. It's an actual instrument. It's a tool. And so there's training around that because teachers need to understand how to administer the tool, how to then, compile and analyze, but it's a tool.
Okay, that answers the question. All right, Chris, you're off the hook.
Oh, wow. Well, you were very kind. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you all again in a few months. Thank you.
Superintendent?
Great, thank you. Next, we're going to have a quick update on our enrollment numbers by Juan Rodriguez, and then attendance so far also.
Thank you, Superintendent. Good evening, everyone. Just a few quick slides just on our opening numbers as far as enrollment and attendance numbers. There's a nice picture of one of our families who came down for our walk-in registration on Essex Street. And the Lawrence Police Department was kind enough to support us with their ice cream truck that day, so the students who were registering were able to grab a sweet treat while their families were getting them registered. So again, thanks to LPD. Just as the end of last year, we had about 12,786 students enrolled. As of last Friday, we were over 13,000 in total enrollment, with enrollment still ongoing. We have 3 enrollment teams: early childhood at the Rollins, K-8 at the FRC on Essex Street, and secondary at the campus down the street. So we do expect our enrollment numbers to keep increasing as the fall goes on.
Juan, can you, how does that compare to pre-pandemic?
Probably 18, 19, 16, 17, 17, 18. We're about 13.5, 13.6 every year. So we are still a little bit below that. But again, we are still registering numerous families every day. And then January will be our next, heavy enrollment period. So I do expect us to be somewhere around 13.3, 13.4 by the end of the school year, as far as what we're seeing right now. But enrollment by grade level, most of our grade levels are in the mid 900s to over 1,000. And again, we are over 13,000 total. And if you want to see the school breakdowns, we can send you the school breakdowns as well, how many kids enrolled at each school across the city. And we ran our year-to-date attendance as of September 9th. We're at 87%. We do have some students who have not come to school yet, and we are tracking them down, making sure that, they are coming back from wherever they are to make sure that we increase our numbers, as the year goes on.
One, do we still use that 10-day period from the beginning of school to find the kids?
Yes, that's
The
correct.
no-shows?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. And do you think after the October 1 report is completed, do you think that you could do some kind of a comparison with pre-COVID to the present day, and maybe we could,
Absolutely, yep.
make some assumptions based on that data?
Yeah, we do expect the attendance numbers to increase slightly, as Pat said. Students who have been absent for 10 more days but haven't been withdrawn, who might have moved to New York City or might be in Lowell or might be in Brockton, we will withdraw them. And, as they had moved already, those attendance numbers will go up a little bit as we withdraw them.
I do have a question. If you go back to the table before, I don't know if you had the numbers today, or maybe it would be next time. It would be good to see those some numbers also compared to last year and also pre-pandemic, so that we can make assumptions too.
Yeah, sure. No, we can get the enrollment numbers by grade and also the attendance numbers pre-pandemic as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Julia?
Yes, I do. Can you go over, tell us a little bit about the reduction in the number of students in grades 10 and 11, and then there's a jump that goes back up to in grade 12?
Yes, in grade 12, the numbers are slightly larger because a lot of our 12th grade students are in the high school learning center, who are students who are close to graduation. We also have some newcomers who enter grade 12 at the international high school. We do lose some students from 8th to 9th grade, as you notice, as some of our students opt to go to GLTS, as they should if they want to do technical or vocational training. Some others go to Central Catholic and other area schools as well. And then, as you see, we do have some slightly higher numbers in 12th grade.
Have we,
Maria?
thank you. How many, do you have a number for how many kids are actually missing, like they just haven't attended school at all?
Yes, each school is kind of like Pat says, has their no-show list. We call it students who have been consecutively absent over the first couple weeks of school. And again, the parent liaisons at those schools. And we also have residency and attendance specialists for 4 zones within the city, are working with the families to see, are they still in Lawrence and they just haven't come to school? Are they, in DR, in Florida, Puerto Rico, and on their way back, to figure out why the students aren't in school, to make sure that if they have moved, that we withdraw them. If they are still in Lawrence and haven't come to school yet, what's the reason behind that, and how can we get them to come to school, so that we do make sure that the kids who are here are attending.
Yeah, Maria, you wondering how many per school?
Yeah,
per grade?
or kind of an approximate, like how many kids are we missing, or
We don't have that number, but we certainly can bring it to you all next time.
because I'm assuming that they're counted on the 13,000 somehow.
Yes,
enrolled in school.
anybody who's still currently enrolled is counted
Okay.
in that
Even if-
13,000.
That's
Yep.
right, because they were
And-
automatically.
Yeah,
Okay.
and oftentimes, if a student has not attended, it's not that we don't know where they are. We might know that they're at home, or they might
Right.
still be visiting their abuelita or something like that.
Thank you.
But if you're going to do the math, right, it's like, if it's 13,000 students and we have 87% average attendance, then we're missing like 1,500 kids or more.
Well, I don't know that number, that was one of my questions, because I
Yeah.
think 87% is just attendance rate per day. It's not really, it could be kids that are that are absent different
Right,
days.
so
but
you're
not-
more asking like, how many kids have been absent for that whole time?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Go ahead, Julia.
I'm still going back to the 10th and 11th grade. When we get the next report, is it possible for us to get a report as to the reasons and the reductions why these kids are missing?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
You'll have more time by
Yeah.
then to figure it out, and hopefully you'll be able to break it down for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Superintendent?
Great, thank you so much, Juan. Next, we'll hear from Melissa Spash, and she's going to give us the learning priorities for this school year's. These were drawn directly, and in a moment, Melissa will share this with you based on SQR, conversations with school teams, specifically with the administrators. This summer, we had opportunity to meet with our school leaders in our Instructional Leadership Institute and have a great plan for making sure that we meet these goals. Go ahead, Melissa.
Thank you. It's great to see everyone, and I always want to talk about teaching and learning, so it's a highlight for me today. And I think great story for the district. I have two big stories. The first one starts with a district focus on pedagogy. We went to the data, as Superintendent Parrish said, to see what our data could say about where we focus, because this is a huge topic. Specifically, we looked at the spring 2022 most recent SQR, all schools. The instructional core is made up of 3 indicators for the SQR. You can see them on the left. Curriculum is number 1, pedagogy is number 2, and assessment is number 3. We then looked at the data. So you can see in the first kind of chunk the number of schools that were rated proficient or well-developed in each of those indicators. So 11 for curriculum, 7 for pedagogy, and then assessment at 10. And then you could see developing or underdeveloped and the number of schools in each of those. And based on that, it basically says 77% of our schools are rated developing or underdeveloped in pedagogy. Pedagogy is essentially the method and practice of teaching. It's a very, very big thing. We then said, well, maybe looking at spring 2022 wasn't quite enough. Let's look at to the year prior and see how this changed. And you can see that roughly 78% of those 23 schools stayed flat. They stayed at the same score. 13%, or 3 of those schools, actually went down, and then 2 increased. So the story there is pretty flat. And this basically, based on this data, we said we are going to put a hard focus on pedagogy for this year and improving those measures. Any questions on all that data before I move on?
Yeah, I just did have a clarification. Is it a typo? Like, because this just confused me. Is it a typo when it's supposed to say developing?
This is like the 3rd time I've given this, and I was looking at it, I was like, look at that typo. None of us caught. Absolutely, good job.
Okay, I was wondering.
Sorry about that, but yes, it should say developing.
Okay, that makes more sense now. Thanks.
Yes. Any other questions on that? No. Okay. So I had the pleasure of reading all 30 schools' SQR reports. Those are from 3 to 7 pages. They're really detailed. And looking at the narrative of what those reports were saying around pedagogy. And based on that, we were able to glean that there are 4 really critical components required to achieve a proficient measure or well-developed measure for pedagogy. These are, the first one, having a very well-established vision that names the school's set of beliefs about how students learn best. Some schools might say they really have a sense of belonging for the school. Some may say our kids learn best in small groups. So schools can be different. There's 30 different schools, there's different ages, but what's important is that a school has an established set of beliefs that everyone can narrate about how their students learn best. The second one is that they've chosen 3 to 4 research-based, they didn't pick them out of a hat, strategies, instructional strategies that make that vision come to life. So those might include, like, we're really focusing on checks for understanding or feedback cycles with our students. The next one, that there's coherence across all classrooms. So when the SQR folks come in and they go look at a dozen classrooms, they see the same thing across 80% or more of those classrooms. That's coherence. And the last one is that there's very high levels of student thinking and participation. So engagement isn't enough, it's also that they're doing the cognitive lift of the lesson. So based on this big thick read of the SQR reports, it was very clear that these 4 items were the things we needed to be accomplishing to be proficient in pedagogy. So based on that, we developed a professional learning series focused on pedagogy. We're launching it actually tomorrow. I'm going to be in 2 different schools with some teams. 24 of our schools opted in to participation. This is amazing, 24 out of 30 schools. So it's maybe over 150 participants, and all principals are part of those teams. The professional learning series focuses on really tailored response because everyone's vision or instructional strategies could be different. So we're really tailoring how we're focusing a consultancy model, learning walks for these schools to say how are they doing. We're going to go into classrooms and see and give them feedback. And it's focused on a lot of action planning. We have a measurement for success, which is that we're going to see a dramatic increase in the spring of 2023 for those 77% of our schools in developing and underdeveloped. We're going to see a dramatic increase in that, where over 50% of those schools we'd like to see move up to proficient or well-developed.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Were there any schools required to participate?
At this time, it was not a requirement, but honestly, getting 24, when we presented it, they were very excited about it. So it was not mandated, but the interest was huge. And many of those who didn't choose to participate were already rated well-developed or developing. Or proficient.
That was my next question, okay.
Yeah.
Melissa, could I back you up a little bit to the previous page? When you did the analysis of the SQR reports, were there any commonalities as far as the instructional strategies that you noticed?
Yes and no. There was honestly, they could pick up among many research-based strategies, but many of the ones that I read about was academic discourse, checks for understanding, feedback loops with children. But they didn't have to all be the same. They just have to be research-based, and they have to support and be aligned to whatever the school's vision is.
Thank you.
Sure. And I just gave this as an example. You can see all of these sessions, which are very front-loaded in the year, because we want to see results before the SQR in the spring, right? So all of this is loaded from September through December of like the planning process and the creation of these artifacts. We also spent a half an hour with an exemplary school, or one who had received a well-developed or proficient rating in the early childhood, elementary, middle, and high school, and we shared the narrative of that, which I think folks are going to be really excited to hear. How did you get that here at your school? So we'll be able to share that when we do this series. But you can see there, we're going to have vision statements, communication plans, instructional strategies with look-fors. There's a lot of like jargon in there, but a lot of artifacts that are really intended to help a school move along. And in between these sessions, we're going to offer some consultancy. That's it on what we're calling the LLCCs, or Lawrence Learning Consultancy Cohorts. We love our acronyms. Any other questions on those, or can I move on? Excellent. Okay. We talked to the board about this last year, where we were developing a strategic literacy plan. We're really happy to see this starting to go into motion. We're starting with pre-K to 2, so any of our schools who are pre-K to 2 have pre-K or up to second grade kids. We're offering a Science of Reading professional development module series. There's 10 different modules, 2.5 hours each. It's a massive commitment. They're going to be taking these after school. And we have a lot of educators already signed up. I'll do that on the next page. So thick, very dense professional development series, as well as team structures in the district. So a coaching team. We're doing implementation of coaching inside the schools, and a district literacy team, which we started last year, but we broadened out, that has representatives across every school and all sorts of different roles. And we're going to work with that team to finalize the next round. So what are we going to do next year and in year 3 for strategic literacy?
Melissa, could we stop you for a minute for a question?
Sure.
Yes?
I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. I actually have a question about the pedagogy section,
sure.
right? So, unlike some on this board, I'm not a professional educator, but my understanding would be that, moving teachers more towards that mindset, right? Like that we have an overall strategy and approach to what we're teaching and how we're teaching it and why, right? That's guided by this vision and framework and so on. And if that is going to be kind of a new way of structuring their thinking about this or implementing curriculum for many teachers, one of the things I'm concerned about is, like, it's one thing to go through an intensive professional development process, right, which will be like a one-time investment, and then most of us learn by practicing something, right? So are we kind of carrying through this into, for instance, implementing or setting aside sufficient prep time for teachers to think about, okay, now I've like become immersed in this understanding of why this pedagogical framework is important and so on. Like how, when I'm preparing my lessons in my class every week, how do I operationalize that and make sure that the way I'm implementing curriculum is responding to that and meeting those goals? And that, to me, that's not like, you don't just take a professional development course and then it's like, oh, okay, I can do that in 10 minutes before class starts, right? You need the time to practice and implement that.
I appreciate your question, and when we developed this, we developed as a process. It's not like PD where we're gonna focus on telling them everything to do with checks for understanding. It's actually a process where, and you can see in session 3, it's all about building out their coaching and development plan and their professional development plan inside their regular planning time, which we think is sufficient, to ensure that they're getting that completed for their teachers, and they're giving those feedback cycles, and they're giving the space and the time to develop. We've also spent some time, and that's not on these slides, but in tandem with this exercise has been a real effort to build cohesion across partners, to make sure like people who are focusing on coaching know about this and that they're doing the same thing. So I would actually say a lot of folks have a vision. They're working on getting it more well-known across the whole school. They have instructional strategies. They're working on really, instead of having the whole world of things, we're saying, right here, guys. So it's like narrowing that. So I actually think it's something that's going to strengthen our ability to help people be successful.
And are there opportunities for them to like have peer support around that as well? Because I think that just sort of sharing what their struggles are, what their approaches are, how they're thinking about operationalizing it to each other seems like it might be important.
Yep, great point. We thought about that as well in the design. And so each of these cohorts, there's 24 schools and there's 7 cohorts. So roughly 3 to 4 schools per cohort. And they're all in the same room together, working, talking. They're kind of at the same stage. We asked them, who would you most like to work with? And we organized those groups based on that, as well as kind of where they felt they were in the process. So we did a huge amount of intake processing to make sure we analyzed that and we really met people's needs. So we could go really fast with some groups and a little slower with others.
Thank you.
Sure.
All set? Okay, Melissa.
I could talk about that till 11, but that wouldn't maybe be super fun. Okay, so I went through this one. I think it's a very well-rounded plan in terms of the literacy with all these components. The Science of Reading series, again, which is being offered for pre-K, K, 1 and 2, with one small pilot for 3-4, because we want that to help inform the next round. Over 280, it's actually more like 300 right now. Teachers, paraprofessionals, and administrators are participating. We offered it freely to the paras as well, and there's been a huge response. So we're really excited about that. It's over 30 hours, and we are awarding through Bay Path College graduate credits for anyone who elects to do so. And then there's job-embedded coaching in the pre-K to 2 schools to implement what's learned in those professional learning series modules. And then the last slide is just explaining that there's 2 main teams, the district literacy leadership team and then a district coaching team, to help just mobilize that and turnkey it so it lives beyond these teams in the buildings.
Melissa, do you have a draft of the literacy plan?
We do.
Maybe you could share it with us at the next meeting, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Okay.
It is something I see evolving with this district leadership team this year, but yes, absolutely, we have one.
All right, any other questions?
So I think I said this last year when we started talking about this. I do see an opportunity to share some professional development with community agencies that have the pre-K and K students as well. I mean, those children are going to transition into the public school, and it would be a great way to start some consistency and alignment with regards to professional development for teachers, and again, obviously, ultimately benefiting children. I know right now that we are working closely with one on the restorative justice alignment between private community agencies and the school, and I'm hoping that we can start seeing some results or some positive results from that.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought this back up, Maria, and I welcome the opportunity for you to keep reminding us of these partnerships because, you know, sometimes we're so focused internally with our primary grades, and then here you are reminding us, don't forget about the other partners that you have. So thank you for that, and I think we will, you know, remember and make a real effort this year to look for the opportunities to be good partners in early literacy. So thank you for that reminder.
Thanks.
Thank you. Superintendent, I just have a question. I did some research on the School Empowerment Network, and they have a component that's called the School Leadership Development Program. And I think it would be something that we should consider, and so that we develop a cohort of educators that would like to advance to be an administrator. And the program sounds pretty good, you know, to give it a name. And we really don't have a cohort in the district, I don't think, of leaders that can take over should a principal resign right away. And we're struggling to replace him or her. So I was impressed with that when I read it, and I would hope that you would consider that.
For sure. You're right. Currently, what we do is we are thinking of our administrators like assistant principals to raise their skills and coach them to be the next school leaders, but we can always use strong partners to take on teachers who are interested and work with us so that they can be ready when they're ready to.
Well, I just, you know, felt that we're already contracting with them. It would be an easy fit to look at this other program that they offer.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Pat, I had a question.
For Melissa?
Yeah.
Question for Melissa?
Yes, question for Melissa, yeah. Sorry, yes, so one of the things I'm wondering about, and maybe this is to pick up on another angle of Maria's point about community partnerships. So we do have a certain percentage of families within the district that like struggle with literacy within the family, right? And a lot of the things that go into helping a child with literacy are things that are happening at home, right? In terms of folks reading to the child or, you know, taking them to the library, going over other things. And then we have another, you know, set of families that would love to do that, but are working 2 jobs and second shift and can't sit down and read with their families. So I'm kind of wondering, is there any discussion or plan around almost more of a 2-generation approach around this? Because when we have families that do have those barriers, that I feel like the challenge is larger than just the school can address alone, right? LPS can't educate the entire family, and so, or put the child to bed and read to them if mom or dad has to work at, you know, the Lindt chocolate factory on the second shift. So what can we do in that way to help support the child outside of school, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, I'll take that, Melissa. So if I'm understanding, you're wondering, is there an opportunity for parents also in their decoding and coding sort of literacy skills? Yes? Okay, great. So as a reminder, we do have the ELFIS programs that we believe that the first tier of that is navigating our system and understanding how do you advocate for your students, how do you understand where your student is. And I love this idea of a parallel track of like, okay, now you understand where your first grader is and how you advocate for your second grader and how you understand this education system specific to LPS, and tell us, what can we help you in terms of your skill building? So ELFIS is one of those programs, and we have many of our schools who've already participated and will continue to work with the FRC on other school development, and we can add this to the menu of things that we can offer families as well. Specifically, this this training, we believe, starting with the teachers is important so that they can build their skills and confidence of understanding the science, the brain, the tools, and then deliver instruction, and be able then to communicate that effectively to families. But I'm seeing what you're seeing too, and I like it.
I just think that there might be opportunities to partner and, you know, I don't know whether it's Raising a Reader or some of the other community agencies, because, you know, like, we do have families coming from some of the Central American countries that might not even be Spanish speaking, right? They might be speaking an indigenous language, not have Spanish, like written Spanish or written English or spoken Spanish skills, and you know, there's extra layers there that we, you know, I'm not saying we're going to help everybody, but you know, we do that's going to continue to place a challenge on the child as well.
Yep. So we'll have both Melissa and Juan think this through a little bit now that you've raised this as an, you know, additional opportunity, since we are already on track for this one. So thank you for that.
I can only add to that we do have Juan on our district team, and they call for a representative that would kind of see the family and community partnership. So that member exists on the team, and to Superintendent's point, we'll bring that through to the team that way.
Great, thank you. Next, we're going to have the HR update, and Maricel will lead that.
Hi, members of the board. So just a preliminary report where we are with HR here at the start of the school year. I wanted to just review that currently, well, when I delivered this PowerPoint to you, we were at 2,227, I believe it says up there, for our employees in the district. We've already raised that number about 200. Our HR department and our hiring managers, which include our principals, are working very diligently, still interviewing and hiring staff consistently. So you see here kind of a breakdown of our staff members here. We are increased in administrator roles. We transitioned a lot of FTEs to support curriculum and instruction and assessment in the school building. Dean positions as well to support school culture and climate. Our building-based substitutes, as you see, our cafeteria workers, our clerks, custodians, and you see the rest of the employees there. I thought it would be important to share our overall resignation and hires over the years, so you could see kind of like what has been the trend. I started with 2018. Looking at the same time period, our hiring time period between June and September. And during that time period, we experienced 291 resignations, but we hired 325 employees. The same for 2019. So for as many resignations we receive, we end up increasing our hiring, mostly because we add FTEs through our budgetary process. 2020 was the anomaly. That was our COVID year. So our resignations were very low at 168, and we were doing remote teaching. And so our hires, we met the hiring need of the resignations and then some for our FTEs. 2021, which is when we came back in person last year, which was a big shift and transition for all of us. And we had about 248 resignations, but came in at 328. As you know, public school districts across the nation and other public sector and private sector industry areas are battling the mass resignation. So our resignation has increased significantly to 339, yet we've hired over 465 personnel. I thought you'd probably want to know of the resignations, what is the breakdown. So for those resignation numbers, they're divided into resignations, retirements, and dismissals. I did the same year patterns, 2018 to 2022. You see there that our retirements are pretty consistent, between 12 to 28 in retirements. Our dismissals, again, pretty consistent. We have an outlier on 2019. And our resignations, we saw that there was a higher number in 2018, and the closest number to that was 2022 with this anomaly year. I thought it'd be important to see our annual resignation and hires in comparison to our classroom-based educators, so building-based substitutes, long-term subs, paraprofessionals, and teachers. You see there that, again, with the increase of resignations, we always surpass or at least meet the resignation number. And I did it over the 5 years from 2018 to 2022.
Marisol, could I stop you there for a second?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So this is super helpful, the breakdown's super helpful, thank you. My question is, because sort of some of the rhetoric that we always hear is like, it's Lawrence and it's LPS, but how does this compare, let's say, to Massachusetts or to national averages? Like, that would be really helpful, I think, for us to know in order to know, like, because any of us who are employers know that there's been this, the great resignation, as they call it. Is, like, are our percentages or our averages, like, are they, like, on par with what Massachusetts is experiencing in terms of teacher resignations or educator resignations? Are they on par with national averages? Like, that would help us understand whether we are, either, like, it's just different problems, right? Like, one, yes, we never want to have tons of resignations, we want to retain staff, but if this is something that everybody is facing, that doesn't mean we have to accept it. We still can work to address it, but it would be good to know that versus, is our problem way worse than anybody else's?
So I compared our last screen about how many educators we still need, positions we still need, and that's about 8%. So that, we're usually at about 15% need at the end of the school year when resignations start coming in. So at 8% is still not extremely problematic. Still a problem to be solved, but I would say in comparison to where we were last year, we're not that far off the mark.
What is in Massachusetts across all public schools? Where are they at?
We don't receive that data readily. We just know rhetorically, so I'll have the superintendent speak to that.
Sure. So what I know from my colleagues in urban settings is that 10% is the average.
Okay. So it's not, right, we're not.
The mic is on.
Mike.
I was going to say, like, we're not happy about 8%, but at least we know that, for everyone who's always like, Lawrence is so much worse than everywhere else, like, we're not.
No.
I just want to say that.
We're kind of average in this case.
We're pretty average.
All right, Naomi?
I have two questions. Well, actually, one is a comment. It would be useful to also know the vacancies, because that will also tell us the fuller story, because yes, we need to increase the number of staff and employees because we're also increasing the number of students in the school district. So that would be, I would like to see the data at some point. And then the other question that I have, which is interesting, when I'm looking at all of the numbers, where we see across the board from all the years, where we see the most significant number of hires is with the paraprofessionals. Considering what we saw today, what is the reason why we have such an increase? And again, it would be good to see on the other side, what are the vacancies?
I will show you in the last slide, I think it's the 7th slide, our vacancy list. Our increases for paraprofessionals always depends on the student need. So it depends on students, what their, go ahead. Did you have a question?
No, you continue, and
Sorry.
then, yeah.
So it depends on the students, their IEP, what their IEP calls for, if they need a one-to-one.
Mhm.
If we are, for example, students that may have been out of district placements are now in district and require more individualized services, that also increases the number of paraprofessionals we need.
But why
Principals-
is the difference is so big, it's almost like more than double compared to all the other staff across all the years, except for the building-based sub, which is have 2 and 4, but the number is so low that you will not see that as a big impact. But here you go from 35 to 72. Sorry, you have the, from 49 to 72 in 1 year.
Yep. So again, those are increases, and some of them are funded through ESSER and SOA to support schools. So when they had requests in the school budget, they wanted to increase their paraprofessionals to support more ESL services or to spur special ed services delivered in a different way, and those monies are readily available, we would increase that. But it always also depends on the number of students that are in need of individualized support, or if we're increasing programming. For example, we increased pre-K ILP programs. That means that then we also increase the staffing, the paraprofessional need in those programs. So,
Marisol, let's go back to the para numbers. Out of those 35 resignations, how many of those paras earned degrees and resigned from the para position to become teachers we hired as classroom teachers?
as of last count, we had about 15 that moved from our August report, our August paraprofessional report, to our September paraprofessional report, which indicated that they resigned to take a teaching position in the district.
So technically, that 35, you're saying 15, actually 20 resigned,
Right,
and the other 15 have become teachers within the district.
correct.
Okay.
Many of these resignations, including the teacher resignations, they end up moving to other positions in the district, such as administrators, assistant principals, deans, even principals. So,
Well, I think that's an important thing to note, that,
Yeah.
like you've said yourself, that that's a good pipeline for us, to be training paras to become teachers and take those positions. But when you look at those numbers, it's deceiving, because you really don't know that many people resigned, not because they wanted to leave, but resigned because they became teachers in the district.
correct.
Thank you.
Here's our classroom vacancy list, and this was as of Friday when I sent this to you. Our teachers' number have declined from 73. We have hired 15 additional teachers, and our paraprofessionals have declined from 41. We've hired an additional 15. Now, with the long-term sub and building-based educator contract resolved and voted on, we should see those numbers increase as well, as far as, decrease in vacancies, because the rate would have an impact on individuals taking those positions.
Any other questions? I guess we're all set, Marisol. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent, for those reports. We appreciate it. All right, the next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the June 8th board meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Oh, come on, guys, work with me here.
Discussion.
Okay.
Discussion. Discussion.
Jess?
Discussion.
All right, go ahead, Julia, I'm sorry.
That's why I kind of hesitated. No, I just think that there's an error in the minutes, especially towards the end, when we voted to go into executive session, that I am listed as voting no. I don't think I would have voted no to go into executive session and ended up going to executive session. So just to have that corrected, please.
Okay, we'll make those corrections. All right, can we have a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections as stated?
So agree.
All right, let's
Yes.
all right, second again?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Jess?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Naomi?
Yes.
All right, we're getting punchy, I guess. All right, we have included our regular scheduled agenda items. We're going to go into executive session under Purpose 2 of the Open Meeting Law to conduct a strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel. I would like a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Jess. Second. Roll call. Jess?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Naomi?
Yes.
And for the audience, we will not return back here. We will adjourn from executive session. So thank you very much for being here and bearing with me during my maiden voyage here. Thank you.
Great job.